Police Minister Bheki Cele has confirmed that since the country went on lockdown, the police have received about 87,000 calls relating to gender-based violence. Now, he says this is very serious and police are committed to arresting the perpetrators.
GBV violence is serious, no doubt about it. If I'm not mistaken, the last number we received from the report of the Nash Jones is that since it started, 87,000 people have phoned reporting that there might be a gender violence in the houses. So I wouldn't know how many that have been arrested, but I know that the police that raped the wife has been arrested, not as a police, as a criminal. But maybe one thing that one can raise here, there is news that made waves of a 74-old in Maritzburg Gogo that was raided and attacked by people that they say they were South African National Defence Force members who were coming to sanitize, and that was Ugogo Zuma. And two people have been arrested, one 27-year-old and one 22-year-old. We're chasing for the third one, but that arrest has been made in Pietermaritzburg. So we thank the police for quick action and quick reaction on that matter.
Now, for more on the story, I'm now joined on the phone line by gender activist Lisa Vetten. A very good afternoon to you, Lisa. Thank you so much for your time and for joining us in our program this afternoon. Now, really scary revelations made there by Police Minister Bheki Cele, revealing that over 87,000 gender-based violence complaints have been received over the 7 days of lockdown. Just talk us through your reaction with regards to that.
I think one wants to have a look at them a little more carefully to see what the calls are about. So I've been talking to some of the other helplines. They're also seeing an increase in calls. But they're saying, for example, that some of the increase is due to the fact that women can't go to the organization anymore for counseling because it's shut. So they're phoning the helplines instead in order to ask for assistance.
Now, Lisa, no, carry on.
We're also seeing an increase in some provinces in shelter admissions. So Gauteng is pretty full. There's been an increase in KwaZulu-Natal, and parts of Mpumalanga have also seen an increase. But in other provinces, we haven't seen quite as dramatic increases in shelter admissions as in those three provinces.
Now, Lisa, let's talk a little bit more on the resources which are available at the disposal of women who are then affected by gender-based violence, and what it is that they can do when they do find themselves in a position where they are impacted by, of course, violence from men.
There are a couple of options that they have. If they are in danger and they are concerned about their safety, then the courts are open, but the hours are only from 10 until 1, and they can obtain an interim protection order in order to possibly even have the man evicted, or to at least order him to refrain from abusing them. So that's their one option. The second option, which people are obviously using, is to phone one of the organizations who are offering their counseling, or if they can't do that, the command center or the helpline, so they can at least talk about what's happening and talk about other ways in which to try to manage the situation. They must go outside. If they are attacked and their safety is concerned, then they must go outside. They shouldn't feel they have to remain inside because there's a lockdown. I think they should also, family and friends who are concerned, for example, about a family member, should contact them daily to ask how they're doing and what's happening. And in turn, they could arrange a system where if, I am feeling unsafe, but I'm concerned that because my partner's in the house, you can hear me call, that I send a text, maybe an emoji or a message or something. And that the family member then knows they should contact the police or they should make a plan in order to disrupt what's going on in that household. And I know this is a terrible thing to say, but if they are trapped in the house, it's always important to try and make sure you don't get trapped in the kitchen or the bathroom, because that's where you have a lot of sharp surfaces and instruments and knives where harm can be done to you. So if possible, to try and not get forced into those rooms. The other option is if you have a bathroom where there's a lock on the door, is to perhaps try and run to the bathroom and lock the door as quickly as possible. And again, I think neighbours, if you hear sounds, yes, there's a lockdown, but go and investigate what's going on.
And now, Lisa, when we're looking at the role of police when it comes to protecting women there who are then impacted by gender-based violence, do you think that they are doing enough under the circumstances of which they are already deployed to certain areas in ensuring that lockdown regulations are followed?
Look, from what I can assess from talking to different organizations, they are generally responding and they are bringing women to shelters. That's certainly been the case. That's certainly been the case in Gauteng. There have been times where their response has not been helpful. So I think these are indications of where we need to look at more training and other issues. And I think organizations, especially the Domestic Violence Helpline run by Lifeline, their supervisors are trying to follow up with everybody who's calling in order to ensure that they're getting the help that they should, and if they don't, they're contacting stations to follow up as to why that hasn't happened.
Now, when we're looking at other measures, now you've just talked us through with such what some women can actually do when they do find themselves in positions where they are, impacted by violence from men. Now, what other things can government or should government actually implement with regards to ensuring that women are protected, more especially when, the victims or the perpetrators, to say, are inside the house?
This is a very difficult situation which in some ways has lose-lose elements, because we all have to stay home in order not to spread the virus, but home happens to just be the most dangerous place for many women and children. So it is a situation that is inherently dangerous. I think around the world has confronted many governments and nobody has yet thought through what is a good solution in terms of ensuring safety. I think the best options that come up that have been things like emergency responses to something like the command center, which is linked into a police station that can send you out an officer immediately. But, there's also those day-to-day situations of emotional abuse where it's just very difficult sometimes to get the police to respond because it's not necessarily always seen as life-threatening. And I think it does start to point to what is it that we need to do to look at how do we intervene with men to show them other ways of responding to difficulties and frustrations that are not abusive. And I think in the longer term, we're going to need to start thinking about what are the kinds of options we're going to need to make available to women to ensure that they do not remain with abusive men because they are economically dependent on them, do not have jobs, and do not have alternative housing options.
And now, Lisa, it's only day 8 of the lockdown. Now, do you think perhaps then we should be shocked by these numbers? Is it normal for South Africa to have already recorded such numbers? And can we expect a further increase?
These numbers are not normal. And I mean, from the organizations I've talked to, as I said, some are definitely seeing an increase. I think one would want to look at that 87,000 more closely to see what it is, what the calls are about. But they do clearly seem to be parts of the country where there is a problem that we must take very seriously and think about how to attend to. Because I do suspect, that if we go further into the lockdown, if it's extended, people's stresses and tensions may well get worse. Their financial circumstances, if they haven't been paid, are going to become more difficult. The demands that they pay bills with money they don't have, buy food that they don't have money for, may well become more intense. And so I think the deeper we get into this, and the more difficult it becomes, then quite possibly the likelihood of violence increasing will become even greater.